This is part 2 of our presentation. At this point in the presentation, you'll now hear from Christine Banks.
So I'm going to talk about strategies that we teach the students to use for the English Language Arts portion of MCAS. And when I'm done, Mrs. LeBlanc will be talking about in part 3 the math portion of the test, as well as what you can do at home to help your children be prepared. So the first slide that you're seeing is strategies for multiple choice. And we teach the students to underline the answers in the text, read the directions, the italics, the questions, each passage, to cross out wrong choices and look at the questions and decide if they're right there versus a think and search question. And I can show you this when we look in the actual sample questions that we're using. And we're also going to talk about strategies for short answers and open response. And students are going to be taught to read the questions until they're sure of what they're asking, circle evidence in the text, and use words from the questions in the beginning of their sentences. We want students to reword the question, cite evidence from the story or excerpt, and then write a summarizing statement. And then they're supposed to reread their work for clarity to make sure that it would make sense to whoever's reading it. So what you're seeing here are directions that we'll be working with students, and these directions will, and actually the entire packet will be available to you to be downloaded and looked at through a separate link. So we teach students to read the directions twice, read the story twice, and read the directions that are above the questions twice. There's a lot of information in the test, and it's information that we are unable to read to students. Students must read it on their own. We want the students to look back in the story, underlining the proof that helps them answer the question, and put the correct question number next to it. We want them to eliminate any answers that are totally wrong. So flipping through to a sample excerpt that students have practiced in class. This is from a couple of years ago, and this is an excerpt from Paula Danzinger's United States of America. And we teach the students to read the directions in the italics and read the entire story 2 times. Now what you'll see here is we've marked this up, and we've marked this up based on the questions that students are answering. So if we go forward to when we start the questions, right here is question 1, and it says, in the story, how do readers first discover that gum is special to skate? And an important thing that we teach students to do is go back for each question and look for the information in the reading. If they try to guess from their head, there are a lot of tricky questions, and it makes it very difficult to be accurate if they don't take the time to go back. So in this passage, we've gone back with question 1, and we've underlined any information that would help them to answer number 1. In these sentences here, we teach them to underline and then write the question that corresponds to their test. There are a lot of answers when they're taking the test that do look similar, and it is easy to make an error. So we teach them to go back for each and every question, and we remind them to do this frequently. After the multiple choice questions, some passages will have an open response question. Right here is an open response question, and it says, based on the story, how does Gum show that he cares for skate? Now this is a time where students have to go back and carefully find the information that will help them to answer this question. And when we're doing open response, we teach students to go back, as you can see here, and circle information. So this information right here is circled with the number 11. And then if you look in, we have a few other samples that will help them. This information here would also help answer number 11. And right there. So that information will all help them to answer that question. So having them circle for open response and underline for multiple choice ensures students that they are going back for each question and looking for the information. And then in this packet you'll also see some sample answers. And this shows, we do share these with students, and these are from the Department of Education. These questions are worth 2 points each, and it shows students what your answer could look like to get a 2, what your answer could look like to get a 1, and what would happen if your answer was incorrect and you got 0 points. So it's good to we show those to students so they can say, oh, how could I make a 1 or 2? And it gives students a chance to take a look and see what a good answer would look like. Our third part is going to be on the math portion, and Mrs. LeBlanc will be speaking about that. And if you have any questions about any of the portions of the test, please feel free to contact any of us.